Imagine trying to predict exactly where a hurricane is going to make landfall, but you don't have satellite imaging.
Right, no visual data at all.
Exactly. You have to do it by measuring this slight, almost imperceptible change in wind direction 10 full days in advance.
It's basically impossible for a human.
Yeah, because you're not looking at the storm itself, you're looking at the invisible atmospheric conditions that might eventually allow that storm to even form in the first place.
It is an incredibly delicate science, or I guess in the context of what we are analyzing today, it's a highly intricate algorithmic art form.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We have just a massive stack of raw data logs sitting in front of us today, and they document this literal 5-day march through the completely unpredictable landscape of Japanese trend intelligence.
Specifically, the week of June 15th to June 19th, 2026.
Right. And our mission here, we're trying to figure out how these machine learning models are attempting to predict human behavior before we even know what we want ourselves.
And we get to observe this through a really fascinating battle of algorithms inside the AI market arena. We're tracking the telemetry of two very distinct entities.
The Rhinos and the Falcons.
Yes. On one side, Team Rhino Titans. They represent this steady, silent endurance. They move very deliberately. And on the other side, you have Team Falcon Arrows.
Who are just incredibly aggressive.
Very reactive, yeah. They're designed to hunt for sudden structural shifts, catching these emerging macro currents.
It really is like watching two entirely different species try to survive in the exact same ecosystem. But before we get into the weeds of their actual strategies, we should probably set some ground rules about what we're looking at. What actually is this data?
Yeah, that is a vital disclaimer we need to establish immediately. This is strictly a research data log.
Right.
We're just observing algorithm behavior across the language barrier, analyzing trend intelligence. This is absolutely not an investment guide.
Definitely not financial advice.
Not at all. We are looking at the digital footprints these algorithms left behind after the fact. It is purely post hoc analysis.
So finding a pattern in the past doesn't mean
it guarantees absolutely nothing about future market accuracy. We are just here to study the intelligence mechanisms, not to trade.
We're just popping the hood on the machines to see how they work. So let's look at the daily deployments, right? Those 100 hours UTC keyword briefings. Over this 5-day stretch, the survival strategies of the Rhinos and the Falcons just completely diverged.
That couldn't have been more different.
Yeah. And instead of just reading like a grocery list of what they did Monday through Friday, let's look at the philosophies behind it. Because the Rhinos basically built a biological survival guide for the Japanese summer.
They really did. They leaned heavily into the predictable, physiological, and seasonal realities of late June. They were targeting the friction of daily human life.
Okay, wait, hold on. I get predicting that people will react to the weather. We all do. But why do algorithms care? Like, how does knowing that someone is physically uncomfortable in Tokyo translate into a measurable trend intelligence advantage?
Well, because physiological discomfort drives immediate mass-scale economic action.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, when the humidity breaks a certain threshold in Japan, it's not just a weather event anymore. It's a consumer event.
Yeah.
So on June 15th, the Rhinos deployed the keyword ACE, which means sweat.
Right, because everyone is suddenly sweating.
Exactly. And rising humidity brings up these immediate societal concerns about odor and hygiene. Millions of people simultaneously alter their daily routines, and that generates a massive, trackable data footprint.
And they followed that logical chain all week. I mean, they went from sweat on the 15th to sunscreen on the 16th, and then they anticipated the physical exhaustion that comes after the heat by deploying Nimook on the 17th, which means drowsiness.
Which is just a brilliant secondary derivative.
Right.
Because the heat and humidity, they don't just make you sweat, they disrupt national sleep quality. And when an entire workforce is collectively sleep deprived, search trends for things like caffeine, productivity tools, health remedies, they all spike. The Rhinos are basically mapping human misery.
Mapping human misery. That's, wow. So by the time they hit air conditioning on the 18th, it wasn't a random guess.
No, it was the inevitable escalation of that human discomfort.
And then they round out the week on the 19th with JLPT, the Japanese language proficiency test.
Scheduled for early July. So, again, it's a highly predictable, calendar-driven event that forces a specific subset of the population into this sudden panic of last-minute preparation and search activity.
It's scheduled friction.
Exactly. The Rhino strategy is what you might call a peacetime deployment. They're betting that the overarching narrative of the Japanese market that week is dictated purely by the calendar and the thermometer.
Okay, but then you look at Team Falcon Arrows, and they are playing a completely different game. They ignored the thermometer entirely. They were hunting for these like massive, complex macro industry signals.
Right, the Falcons are searching for structural turning points, while the Rhinos are tracking the surface conditions.
The Falcons are trying to map the deep ocean currents.
Perfectly said.
I mean, they started on the 15th with evacuation tracking active weather fronts, bringing hazardous conditions. But then they just pivot hard into complex tech. On the 16th, they tracked AI routers, specifically the architecture that dynamically directs user queries to the best large language model in real time.
Very niche.
Yeah. And then on the 17th, autonomous AI agents.
Highly specific transformative technology shifts.
And then they moved to heavy industry. On the 18th, they deployed naphtha, a flammable liquid hydrocarbon. And finally, on the 19th, Rapidus, a government-backed Japanese semiconductor company. So I have to challenge this logic here.
Cool.
Rhino Titans are betting on human biology, sweating and sleeping. Falcon Arrows are betting on industrial chemicals like naphtha and next-gen AI routing architecture.
Yeah.
Are the Falcons just, completely overcomplicating their strategy here? Why track a chemical derivative?
Well, because naphtha is the invisible bedrock of modern manufacturing. It is a vital feedstock for producing plastics and chemicals.
Okay.
So if you can track the demand and pricing trends of naphtha, you're essentially tracking the industrial heartbeat of the region long before the finished consumer goods ever hit the shelves.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, the Falcons aren't necessarily overcomplicating things. They're sensing that beneath the seasonal humidity, there is this massive economic shift happening in Japanese industry and technology. Semiconductors, autonomous agents, industrial-based chemicals, these are the building blocks of a structural market transformation.
They're trying to catch the momentum of that macro shift before it becomes obvious to everyone else on the surface.
Exactly.
Well, the Rhinos, on the other hand, know that no matter what the semiconductor market does, people are still going to sweat.
They certainly are.
Okay, so we have the setup. We know the competing philosophies. But having seen what they chose to deploy, we now have to look at how their active missions actually performed in real time under the pressure of that week's volatility. Welcome to the midweek slog.
Yes, the midweek slug. This is where we monitor the active mission updates, the real-time signal observation.
Yeah.
And the volatility we saw was staggering. But we do need to clarify what we are actually measuring here.
Yeah, please, because the logs show these massive percentages, and it can be confusing. Like, the Rhinos tracked Father's Day, which showed a positive momentum of plus 38.4% on Monday.
Right.
Then they pivoted to tracking Prime Day. It was at plus 25.8% on Wednesday, but by Friday, it dipped into the negative at minus 3.3%. So explain this to me like I'm 5. What exactly are we measuring? Is this like a mock stock portfolio?
No. This is a pure trend intelligence metric. Think of that percentage as a traction index. We are measuring the sustained heat and real-world gravity of a topic against a historical baseline. A positive percentage means the trend is actively expanding its digital footprint and capturing compounding public attention.
And a negative percentage
Means the trend is decaying. It is losing momentum faster than it's gaining new interest.
So it's basically a measurement of societal attention span.
Precisely. And what you're seeing with that Prime Day drop from plus 25 to minus 3 is the concept of systemic friction. Real-time tracking often reveals this massive disconnect between the sheer initial heat of a Google trend and its actual staying power in the market.
It flashes and fades.
Right. A topic can have immense search velocity on day one, but if the public quickly finds what they need or just loses interest, that momentum degrades quickly through friction.
It's like watching a viral social media trend. Think about your own feed last week. You probably saw a topic go completely viral. It dominated every screen you looked at for 24 hours. You thought it was the most important thing in the world. But by Friday, everyone had completely moved on, and you couldn't even remember what the outrage was about. That momentum just collapses. And that is exactly what the Falcons experienced with their tech tracking.
Oh, their ride was incredibly turbulent. Let's look at their midweek tracking.
Yeah, they started tracking the keyword bug, which is just, hovering flat at minus 0.7%, not really doing much. Then they latch on to SpaceX. On Tuesday, its traction index is climbing at plus 5.8%. Wednesday, it surges to plus 11.0%.
Which looks great.
Yeah. If you're watching the telemetry, you're thinking, the Falcons caught a massive macro current. But by Friday, it absolutely plummets to a harsh minus 10.0%. The momentum just completely collapsed.
And that is the danger of chasing the news cycle or sudden tech spikes. The decay rate is absolutely brutal. I mean, a rocket launch generates a massive, concentrated burst of awe and media coverage. The search volume just explodes.
But then the launch is over.
Exactly. Once the launch window closes and the initial news cycle churns for maybe 36 hours, the algorithm's tracker is left stranded. Public attention pivots elsewhere. The Rhinos experienced a slower, more grinding exhaustion with Prime Day. But both teams really suffered from the reality that modern market attention spans are incredibly fragile.
So if the midweek slog is all about volatility and momentum bleed, the ultimate test of these algorithms is the 10-day time lag. We move from the daily tracking noise to the mission completed reports. This is the ultimate filter.
Yes, this is where we see whose logic actually survived, and the 10-day time lag is ruthless. It doesn't matter how hot a trend is on Monday. It only matters if the fundamental logic behind that trend can sustain structural value over 10 full trading days.
We're looking for adaptation versus attrition.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the survivors, the specific keyword units that survived that grueling 10-day lag to secure a positive win. The Rhino Titans had some just massive triumphs.
They did. Their seasonal, biologically driven, and event-scheduled predictability yielded explosive, sustained momentum.
I'll say. On Monday, their completed mission for World Cup returned a staggering traction index of plus 368.8%. Tuesday, shareholders meeting brought in plus 156.1%. Thursday, Ochugen hit plus 103.0%. And Friday, Father's Day closed out at plus 71.9%.
Huge numbers.
Yeah, those numbers are huge, but I really want to focus on Thursday. What is Ochugen and why does it drive a 100% trend return over 10 days?
So Ochugen is the traditional Japanese mid-year gift-giving season. It is a deeply ingrained cultural and corporate practice where people and businesses send gifts to those to whom they feel indebted.
Oh, so it's not just a quick little holiday.
No, it's not a fleeting social media trend at all. It is a massive scheduled engine of economic activity. People spend weeks researching gifts, comparing prices, and organizing logistics.
So it has deep sustained gravity.
Exactly. Predictable human events like sports tournaments, corporate governance deadlines, and cultural gift-giving. They don't just flash and fade. They force consecutive days of compounding interest, planning, and real-world action. And that translates directly into a highly resilient trend index.
Makes total sense. But the Falcons weren't completely shut out. I mean, they survived the time lag too, even if their wins weren't in the triple digits. Their completed mission for electricity bill yielded a plus 39.2% traction score. Bug ended up returning plus 26.7%, National Holiday gave them plus 39.8%, and Bubble returned plus 15.7%.
And what's really revealing here is that the Falcons' successful survivors were actually their less abstract, more grounded keywords.
Right.
When they tracked highly complex architecture like AI routers, we didn't see those massive 10-day survival wins. But electricity bill, that represents a persistent macroeconomic anxiety. As the summer heat rises, the dread of impending utility costs rises right along with it. It is a slow, steady burn that easily survives a 10-day lag.
It's unavoidable friction for everyday people. But, you know, it wasn't all victories. We have to examine the casualties because this is where the algorithms actually learn. The Rhinos took a brutal hit on Wednesday.
They did.
Their completed mission for government benefit payment came back at a devastating minus 61.1%. Why does a trend about getting free money crash that hard?
Think about the underlying mechanics of government bureaucracy. When a benefit is first announced, search volume explodes with hope and anticipation. The trend heat is massive. What happens within 48 hours?
People hit a wall of confusing PDF forms.
Precisely. They encounter eligibility requirements, server crashes on government portals, delayed payout dates. The initial heat turns into frustration, confusion, and ultimately abandonment.
So the search just dies.
The algorithm learned a harsh lesson there. Bureaucratic friction kills momentum almost instantly. The trend decays because the public literally gives up on the search.
That makes perfect sense. And the Falcons had a notable casualty on Thursday, too. Their keyword electric fan failed the 10-day test, returning a slight negative at minus 4.1%. But, and here's where the data gets genuinely incredible for me.
The overlap.
Yes. Look at that Thursday timeline. The Falcons get their mission return, and it's a failure on electric fan. On that exact same day, Thursday the 18th, what do the Rhinos deploy as their brand new daily mission? Air conditioning.
It's fascinating.
It's like the Rhinos watched the Falcons fail with a simple desk fan and decided, okay, that's not enough. We're bringing in the heavy household infrastructure. What does that tell us about how these algorithms learn competitively in this arena?
It raises a profound point about competitive telemetry, because while we analyze them as separate entities, they are operating and adapting within the exact same closed arena.
Right.
An electric fan represents a temporary, low-cost solution to environmental heat. When that specific logic fails to hold a 10-day trend, it suggests the market has moved past temporary relief. The heat has become too severe. So the Rhinos deploying air conditioning implies an algorithmic adaptation.
They realize the cheap fix isn't working anymore.
Exactly. It recognizes that the market's pain point has escalated, requiring a more substantial, permanent, and high-cost solution.
They are literally reading the decay rate of one idea to inform the escalation of their own. That is just fascinating. So we need to pull back from these specific micro battles, the sunscreen, the bureaucratic forms, the naphtha tracking, and look at the macro level war. We need to look at the season standings.
This is the big picture. This is where we measure the cumulative impact of all these daily deployments, the midweek friction, and the ultimate 10-day survivability.
And the overarching season standings reveal some dramatic shifts in system health. Team Rhino Titans started the week absolutely dominating. They opened Monday with a cumulative system score of plus 2,074.4%. Massive. Yeah, and they took that hit midweek with the government benefit failure, dipping to plus 1,886.8% on Tuesday, but they grinded out the rest of the week and ended Friday strong at plus 1,968.9%.
It was a tremendous display of algorithmic endurance. They absorbed the friction of the market, relied on highly predictable human behavior, and maintained massive overall system health.
But then you look at Team Falcon arrows, and they experienced severe system-rattling turbulence. They started the week at plus 187.8%. They peaked on Wednesday, hitting plus 359.8%, like they were catching that tech momentum.
But then the decay hit.
Yeah, the decay rates we talked about, the SpaceX collapse, it just hammered them. They closed Friday all the way down at a mere plus 82.3%.
And this is where we really must articulate the core research philosophy of the AI market arena. If you look at that drop from almost 360% down to 82%, conventional analysis might call that a crushing defeat.
I mean, it looks like the system completely crashed.
But in the world of trend intelligence and machine learning, that severe friction is not a defeat. It is a vital, necessary calibration step. The Falcons were testing the extreme boundaries of the market's attention span.
Pushing the limits.
Right. They were probing complex macro shifts and sudden, volatile tech spikes. The fact that those trends degraded over a 10-day time lag provides the exact, high-fidelity telemetry data the system needs.
They learned exactly where the edges of the public's attention span actually are.
Exactly that. You cannot refine an algorithm to catch the next massive structural wave unless you first understand precisely how and why the previous waves collapsed. That drop to 82.3% is simply the price of gathering the raw data required for the next major algorithmic refinement.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I mean, whether you're building a predictive AI model, running a business, or just trying to navigate your own personal projects, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's literally just the raw data you need to recalibrate your compass. The Falcons aren't broken, they're just recalibrating based on incredibly harsh environmental feedback.
That is the perfect way to contextualize it. The intelligence game is about continuous, relentless adaptation. The market is not static, and the algorithms cannot afford to be either.
It has been an unbelievable 5-day march through this data. We watched the Rhinos meticulously map out the sweaty commutes, the sleep deprivation, and the cultural gift-giving gravity of early summer in Japan. We watched the Falcons try to catch the structural currents of autonomous AI agents and industrial-based chemicals.
You saw the intense exhaustion of the 10-day time lag?
Yes, and we saw how failure fuels the next generation of algorithmic logic.
It is a truly remarkable ecosystem to observe. But, again, as we conclude, I must emphasize to our audience, while observing this intelligence game is intellectually fascinating, and the insights into how algorithms parse human behavior are profound, the final judgment on any real-world application or any investment of your own resources is always your own responsibility.
100%.
We are analyzing the digital footprints of algorithms, not charting a guaranteed path to the future.
You have to be the pilot of your own ship. But I do want to leave you with a lingering thought today. Think about the mechanisms we just discussed. If an algorithm sitting on a server somewhere can map out human anxieties, our drowsiness, our frustration with confusing PDF forms, our sudden need to buy sunscreen, just by watching search trend friction over a 5-day period.
It really makes you wonder.
It does. How mathematically predictable are your own daily decisions?
A very unsettling but absolutely necessary question to ponder in this era of data.
Are you catching a macro current, or are you just following the season? Look, if you want to dive deeper into these raw data logs and see exactly how these algorithms are learning and adapting in real time, you need to subscribe to this channel right now. And more importantly, look down in the video description. There is a link to visit the Substack at amarketerina.substack.com. Sign up for the premium Substack subscription to access the deeper, unedited analytical data logs. You really do not want to miss what these algorithms track next.
Until next time, keep questioning the trends.
We'll see you on the next deep dive. Keep your eye on the wind direction.